Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Fleeting Thoughts, an altered TCG podcast, part of the Maindeck podcast family. My name is Dan.
And I'm Jordan. And today, it's been a while since we've talked to you, but we've been very excited to talk to you guys about the spoilers that have happened and some of the new mechanics that have been revealed through the card text. Now, most of these haven't been completely dissected and explained from like a rules point of view. Like haven't, as far as I know, they haven't updated the rules manual to include all the specifics on them, but some of the cards have reminder text to give us insight into how they will function, and we can kind of let our brains go on what other card effects might play into it, which will be very exciting.
Yeah, Jordan, I think you're so excited you forgot to even mention that these are spoilers for Trial by Frost.
Yes, sorry.
It's okay.
I'm just assuming everyone's in the know.
It is 2025. Finally, it's been it's been 2 days since it started, but we're already off to a banger year, getting our spoilers for Trial by Frost really starting to kick off, I think, very soon. Very, very soon. The content creators are going to start revealing everything, but Trial by Frost still releases at the end of January, and we have a bunch of kind of like baseline spoilers that were released over the past couple of months, sort of trickled in, and I think a lot of these, if you've been really ingrained in the game, you have maybe already seen and talked about, but we just want to go through those mechanics and talk about kind of what impact they're going to maybe have on the game and how these cards kind of show them off, and give our own just 2 cents on everything right before spoiler season gets crazy. And then, Jordan, I think we'll have like one more podcast and then the set will be out. So it's going to be a wild time, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Exactly. Actually, we'll have recorded one more or 2 more podcasts before it comes out, but I feel like the viewers won't have that second episode until it's out, because I think 30th is the next, or it comes out on the 31st, right? Yeah. The next set, or is it the 28th?
Actually, this is going to be tricky. I'm looking at my schedule again, and I am leaving for Europe in exactly 2 weeks from recording this. So you and I have to work this out. But while we're there, the plan is actually a little trip to Paris to meet with the Altered guys again, which I'm really, really looking forward to as well. That's going to be super fun. But so yeah, I don't know. We've been the most inconsistent podcast for a while. By the way, I don't think we mentioned, but like the reason we didn't have a podcast for 2 months wasn't because we were tired of doing it or whatever. It's because all of my equipment just stopped working.
The Maindeck command center kind of blew up and was in a state of disrepair for a while.
Yeah, it was. I've talked about this on the Grand Archive podcast that we published last week, but this was like the worst computer issue. I'm someone with a computer science degree who has always historically built my own PCs and everything. And this was the worst problem I've ever had on a PC. It was nearly undiagnosable. It actually took like 3 weeks to a month to even get to the point where I could diagnose it. And I guess at that point, maybe I should have just bought a computer the first week or something and like tried to get it up and running. I've seen people like buy them and then like sell them or like return them once they've kind of figured out the problem on the main rig. But I don't know. I ended up just delaying me because I kept thinking I just about have it. Like I will have this fixed tomorrow, and then the holidays and everything. So what a mess that was. But hey, we're back now, and we're gonna try to get these out. And because especially with Trial by Frost, Jordan, we're gonna definitely make a little bit extra time to record that, so we have an episode to release at least in the middle of the month. And then we will hopefully get our really fun Trial by Frost pre-release. That's what we can do, right? We can maybe you can talk about your pre-release experience. I'm gonna unfortunately be missing the pre-release because of my trip, but you can let me know how it goes for you.
Yeah, and our local pre-release is going to be on my birthday, from what I heard, unless they are going to change it. But the 24th, they're going to be having the pre-release over here, so I will have at least a week of pre-release experience when it comes time to record.
That is so exciting. What a great little birthday you get to have, having some Trial by Frost. So let's just dig into this thing, Jordan. What's Well, actually, let me do my little bit.
Yeah, I was
Right.
gonna say we got one more thing to go over before we really dive into the details.
Yeah, before we do, just got to mention to you guys because it's been a while. If you do enjoy the Fleeting Thoughts podcast, you're happy to have us back in your ears or on your screen again. You can always let us know by doing all the cool little interaction things with the video. Give it a little thumbs up, like the video, and then comment down below and share it with your friends and do all that kind of stuff. Really helps us out. Make sure you're subscribed, of course, to the channel if you are on Maindeck or if you are watching on a podcast platform. Give us a little 5-star review. That's really helpful too. So appreciate everything you can do there. And then if you are actually, I'm going to do a different plug this time real quick than my usual. I normally do the TCG player one here, but altered it doesn't even matter for. Instead, I want to mention that our store that supports Maindeck, that we have a very, very good relationship, has Trial by Frost on pre-order. I'll have a link down in the description if you need to pick up some Trial by Frost last minute here. It's time to get your pre-orders in. You can get it down there at a very good market rate, and you can also use discount code Maindeck for 5% off your orders. That's on jwwcards.com. JWW Sports Cards and Gaming is Maindeck's sponsor as well. So get your Trial by Frost pre-order. Get it done if you're in the US. Sorry, we're currently shipping to US only. Shipping international is complicated. I know we have a lot of international listeners here too. So that is really for the US audience. But if you're international, love all the likes and comments and everything. That's plenty of help too. So all right, thank you all for your support. Jordan, I'd love you to just take the reins here. Talk about, we got all sorts of mechanics. This is a really fun set. It's got some cool ideas that I'm looking forward to seeing in play.
For sure. I'm just going to kick it off with the new landmark site set. We're not going to go each one in detail. We're going to kind of go over the gist of it. They all kind of function similarly with a slightly different trigger, but there's one for each of the factions, and they're Icebound something, and that something is generally some sort of lake or mountain or a various what's the word I'm looking for, environmental location of some sort that is thematic to each faction. And the way these cards will work is they will get what are called trial counters, and when they get enough trial counters, you will sacrifice them to spawn a 5/5/5 dragon illusion token in an expedition of your choice, and then some benefit that is themed to that particular faction. And again, we're not going to show all of them, but the trigger that I mentioned will be something along the lines of, for example, the Axiom one has, when a card goes from your hand or deck to your reserve, you gain a trial counter on it. So, those are general mechanics that Axiom has a lot of access to, things that they're going to do probably quite frequently. So this will sit in your landmark area, and every time you do that, it'll get a counter. And once it has enough counters, you blow it up, you make a 5/5/5 dragon in whichever expedition you need assistance in. And then the Axiom one again, just because it's the one I'm on, after it spawns the dragon, you get to ready your cards in reserve. And that's a hint towards one of the new mechanics that we'll talk about after this, so stay tuned.
Yeah.
What do you think about these Icebound environmental areas, I'll call them?
Well, they're sites, right? The first thing that caught my eye about these, well, there's two things that caught my eye. Number one, landmark permanence in set 1 didn't have any subtypes. And it looks like this, I don't think there's necessarily any extra rules. At least there's no inherent extra rules to this being a site. But it is nice to see and kind of interesting to see the permanents now start to get some subtypes. And then what caught my eye was right below that. There's now like a little reminder text thing about permanence, which says, in this case, play me in your landmark zone. I don't gain fleeting, which is really just the basic rules, for permanence. But we didn't have that on any of our cards prior to this in set 1. So I think that's kind of cool. Now, I think as far as gameplay, very interesting. The cycle is, so I think there's different levels of strength here right away. I'm very curious to see how these play out and if certain ones make more sense. Like some of them are going to be easier to trigger. Like I imagine this Icebound Hollow in Traced and Rossum deck or something is going to be like boom, like suddenly you have a dragon out of nowhere. Really powerful too in there with the rare version that has a cost reduction of 1, so it's down to 2 cost while it's in reserve, which is like, yep, that's what a thing you can do.
Ways to put it in reserve.
Yep,
And then putting stuff in reserve will trigger it as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I can imagine some like pretty powerful plays if you line everything up there, where you can like get a couple of hollows in reserve and then pay to bring both of them out, 2 each to bring both out, and then use some sweet unique that just has like move a million things into reserve, resupply, whatever. Like there's not hard to resupply twice with the right cards and everything, which are just like suddenly you pop them off and there's 2 giant dragons. So yeah, that's kind of cool. So some I think like are easy to trigger. Others, I think I'm going to point to, which one is here? Icebound Taiga, which is, depending on where you're at on the track, going to be harder to trigger, because it's when you play a character into the grass biome, it gains a trial counter. So like there will be turns where you put that out and I'm like, no grass right now. Hope it's coming up because I haven't flipped the map yet.
I have a theory, because there's also it's not really a mechanic per se, because we've seen stuff like this, calling out specific land zones, but I feel like there's going to be more cards that are like the Kraken that are also going to change what the current environment is, which will make this potentially easier to come across if you're in that later stage of the game when you're past all of the natural forests. To grow a forest for the turn to get some counters on that.
Well, let's come back to that idea right towards the end of the discussion here, because I do definitely see an interesting theme in this set as well that's been coming through in a number of cards. So I would not be surprised to see what you're saying kind of be something that shows up on more card effects. But the advantage to the Taiga is maybe it's going to be a little trickier because you're not in quite as much control over whether or not you can trigger it. But when you do, you could have 5/5/5 dragon with anchored.
Yeah.
Which is like for 3, which is like, and if that, like, if it happens to be we're creating tokens. Hang on. Does that work with Tasia? Or is she play? It's been,
I think it's the first thing you play.
Okay, so yeah, Tasia would not, I believe. Again, like you said right away. Do we have all the rules? No. Okay, but
yeah.
But I think that's the first token production. Is that actually the first token production in Muna? Did they have any Ortis units or anything rarity shifted, faction shifted that created some?
Barring uniques, I want to say I don't think there is any.
I don't think I've seen a unique in Muna that makes it tokens either. Boy.
Yeah, maybe this. Yeah. And the best part is, too, when you think about it, because it's a token, it costs less than 3. So once it is on the field, there's a chance that it won't leave the field for the rest of the game.
Are all tokens?
Per the current rules, tokens are considered to have a cost of 0.
Oh, no. You're right. And look at this Dragon Shade. We see the Dragon Shade token here. I'll pop that on the screen too. But yep, there's no cost anywhere on that bad boy. It's also a factionless card, which is just kind of cool to see too. Yeah,
I didn't even realize that. Oh, is that maybe also like a prelude to set 3 having a factionless cards that can be in any deck?
In all of our lore episodes, Jordan, you and I always tried to get at this idea of there are some other lost tribes and stuff out there, and like, what are they going to be like? Like, imagine the story progresses. I don't want to go off too much of a tangent, but imagine the story progresses to the point where we reach one of the lost tribes and they integrate into all of the factions by being a colorless faction at common, and then faction shift into different factions for their rare versions.
That would be pretty sick.
And the colorless one you can play in any deck, but then the rare ones get more powerful for their specific factions. I just that is such a good idea. That I take no credit for that. I give Equinox full ability to use that idea, and I waive any rights to it because it sounds really cool and I want to see it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Anyway, but yes, these are really interesting. These are really cool. Actually, honestly, this is some of the more exciting things I think we see right now, just because I love the idea of working all of these work everything together. These have the landmark side of things, they have the character side of things, and then they all have like the unique mechanics for every different faction, where I think these will be really, really fun cards to build around and play with. And I'm really, really looking forward to them.
Yeah, I also like it because on that same note, it's landmarks that you play in decks that aren't landmark folk. Like right now,
Mhm.
most of the landmarks, unless you're going for something specific, like a lot of decks won't run them because they don't do a lot for them, or they do something specific for only one thing. These are generic enough to where I wouldn't say they're going to be staples because they're not going to be something you play in every deck, but there's something that could be in every deck and be effective if you are, depending on what you're doing with your deck, which is really nice to see that landmarks will be a little bit more prevalent in most decks because there's a lot of landmark removal that just never gets used because unless you're fighting Axiom or maybe the off Muna that's running Tree or Bravos, you're like, is the landmark ever going to be the reason I lose the game? Probably not. Don't really need to think about it.
Someone
Um,
hasn't lost to a Catagear deck yet.
I have not to be
it is
fully.
it is rough if you don't have the permanent removal, and they are meteor striking you every single turn, or celestial
Oh,
blasting you.
oh man,
Wrong
yeah.
card game name, but celestial blasting you every single turn. It is really hard to win.
Yeah, and then one last note: all of the new the Icebound cards, the sites for Axiom are all 3 cost from hands, which means they interact with Sierra, which is important because a lot of Sierra's best cards pre-nerf cost less than 3. So post nerf, she's been pretty weakened by it because her options are few and far between and too expensive. These give her at her exact cost stuff that will sacrifice himself to get benefit, meaning you're incentivized to keep playing them to get them as they get sacrificed and leave. You don't have to just play a 3 or 4 cost thing to get a bug and then discard one at the end of turn. They're ones that'll naturally remove themselves for an effect that you want.
Jordan, I got destroyed by Sierra. The last tournament I played, I've been on a trip since then for a little bit, but last tournament I played in Corgan. Shout out to Corgan locally, been an altered all-star stalwart. He's been playing Axiom the whole time since release,
Let's go.
trying to make it work. He has really interesting opinions, I think, to listen to about uniques and stuff, and he plays it a lot. So I like he's the one I picked brain for Axiom knowledge now. And yeah, he just destroyed me with Sierra. I think he's kind of got that deck figured out. And I agree totally, though. I think these are going to be a really sick set of cards to look at for Sierra now. And one more thing that I want to mention, last thing here, and we'll move on. When we're looking at unique analysis, this is one of the most exciting things about the game to me. Right now, uniques that have, if you control one landmark, do X are kind of weaker, right? But if we start getting more landmarks that are doing things that are less landmarky, like honestly, just making a 5/5 really, or 5/5/5 really makes up for missing a drop that turn, especially if it's later in the game and you can actually trigger it the same turn you play it using your other cards. Um, that makes it so like you can put an Icebound landmark in play and then play your unique that you bought right now on the cheap because people didn't want it, that says when you play a landmark, do the exact thing that triggers my Icebound site, and then you put a dragon into play. That's going to be a really, really powerful turn sequence. So if you take anything from this episode right now, I think is the time to start hitting up the marketplace on Facebook or on Discord and asking people, hey, I want to buy some uniques that say if you control a landmark, do this. And everyone's like, sure, it's $10. It's terrible. Good
Yeah,
deals. I
or you
think
can
there's some
hit up
deals up
the
there.
official marketplace if you're in the beta that
Oh
starts
yeah.
in like a week or two.
Yeah.
So that'll be
Hopefully.
exciting.
Yeah, that's very exciting to see. Maybe that actually might, Well, we'll have, at some point we'll have to talk about that for sure. I don't know when, but okay, let's move on, Jordan. Those are fun. We could
Yes.
talk about, but I guess we could have an entire episode on those if we wanted to. But let's let's move on.
All right. So next we're going to talk about a couple characters that have a feature of a new mechanic. That
You don't want to talk about gear?
I was going to do the characters
Okay.
first because the gears that we have, or I guess not all of them. One of the gears specifically calls out this mechanic.
Okay.
So I thought
I'll trust
set
you.
up the mechanic with the character first.
I'll trust you two. You and I organize our brains differently, but I'll trust you on this.
Yeah. So we're just going to go over Scotty. As the first one, because I like Bravos a lot, and Scotty is cool. She skis and also snowboards when you're in the rare. Snowboarding is way cooler.
True.
But her effect on common is you may exhaust target card in reserve. And this is a new, not necessarily mechanic, if you will. It is actually a mechanic because you can't do that yet. But exhausting cards in reserved means they cannot be played and they have no support abilities while they are exhausted. Now, to my knowledge, I haven't seen any card text on here that says when they unexhaust, but my assumption is whenever you ready your mana, you'll also end up readying your reserve. Makes sense, especially since one of the other things that we'll go over is cooldown, which is after you play the card, it goes into reserve exhausted. So, with a cooldown, it generally means after a certain amount of time, it's ready again. So what do you think about exhausting things in reserve and its implications on gameplay as a whole?
I love this. I love soft interaction with things. I find that in card games, a lot of people hate hard interaction, right? And by that, for people who don't understand what I mean like destroy target thing, like rip up your opponent's card. Well, it doesn't have, like, it's not usually that. It's occasionally, but not usually that hard. But it's the, okay, I have answered this, it is gone. Soft interaction is really fun because soft interaction tends to be able to get onto cards that are otherwise more powerful. It tends to be very tempo oriented. And it tends to not punish the opponent as directly, which kind of allows both players to continue having like fun in the game. So it's more like a fun preserving way to do interaction in the game for everybody, but it's inherently, obviously weaker for the exchange for all those things as well. I think this is super interesting though, because now we get to have more effects that are like sabotage on your units that are in your units. Your characters are not taking as big of a hit on their stats to get it, which means like if you've ever tried to build the Bravos deck where it's like I slam all the sabotage cards in, I'm just gonna put out some bodies and kill all of their options. You can put a good amount in, but now that deck could be like, yeah, you are literally never playing anything out of the reserve. If I don't have a sabotage for it, I'm going to exhaust the thing so you can't play it anymore. And it opens up some new avenues for deck building, new avenues for interaction, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see.
Yeah. Another noteworthy thing here that's kind of what we were mentioning before, more interaction with the land types, is the rare version of Scotty does basically the same thing, costs the same thing, but with an addition of if I'm in a mountain territory, sabotage. Otherwise, you may exhaust a target in reserve. So you have the option to do the permanent sabotage as well, which is nice. And also, just looking at the card in general, for a 2 cost from hand, it's a pretty beefy stat line as well for having an ability like that. And
that's what I'm saying.
Stat line, like that's gonna be a good card. I'm excited for this card.
I am actually really pumped to start seeing uniques for cards from this set. Like, I think unique Scotties could be potentially pretty crazy. Have like, people are gonna have like the multiple the from anywhere versions of Scotties and the ones that have like multiple sabotage, or in this case maybe multiple exhaust target card and reserve abilities that I think that this Bravos, one of the first decks I did when I was like starting to do some content for Altered, and we were able to start building decks using just like whatever was available on Exalted at the time. was a Bravos control deck where I just put in all the removal and the sabotage stuff, and it was really, really fun to play. So I'm looking forward to all the options being greatly increased here as well, with the addition of more control type effects like this.
For sure.
There's also some interesting interaction on the other side of things with these cards that look for exhausted cards in reserve. I want to talk about an Izmir card real quick. Uh, Moth Larva. This is a fun little guy. Also, the artwork's really good on this card. Really pretty artwork of a little moth on this little tree branch. Larva, excuse me. Not quite a moth yet. A 1/1/1/0/1 with when played from hand, if there are 2 or more exhausted cards in your reserve, I gain 1 boost. So he comes in as a 2/1/2 for 1 if you have those exhausted cards in reserve. So definitely we can expect, I think, looks like Izmir is going to want to, a lot like they sacrifice characters for costs, will be looking to potentially exhaust their own options in reserve to sort of empower their things, or using, as Jordan's about to talk about, these cooldown effects. Maybe we'll see some more spells with cooldown that will allow them to kind of fill their own reserve with these exhausted cards, and then potentially get a little bit of value out of that for the turn.
Yeah, and it's one thing I've wanted to say about this particular mechanic they added is it's one of the last things I even thought of to have as like an interaction point with the
Right?
game, and I was like, that is such a cool way to like have current in-game mechanics and zones be tweaked to have a totally different outlook on how you're going to view them. And then B, the fact that it's what I like to personally call as a self-checking ability. And by that, I mean, it's something that you can do to actively thwart your opponent. But the mechanic itself has built in safeguards in the game where sometimes that
Mm.
mechanic is a benefit. So if it starts to get out of control, like let's say there's a meta deck out there that's just so powerful because it taps everything in reserve all the time and you feel like you can never play your reserve cards, well, then you just make a deck or have a sideboard if they ever add one where you just have a bunch of cards that benefit from having exhausted. And now the thing that made that meta deck powerful is now not doing so well, and in fact is just enabling you to do your deck even better than before. So it has kind of like that self check because it can be used as a weapon or a weapon against people, which is
Yeah.
really nice. It has a lot of as long as there's enough cards to have interactions on both sides of that fence, I think it's going to be a very fun and very engaging mechanic added to the game.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. That's a really good point, and I'm really pumped to see especially more Izmir cards that can have some. I because I can imagine, like you said, I never thought about exhausting my reserve cards, but now
yeah.
I'm like, what are they going to do with this? What
And
else are
on
we going to
that
see?
note, before I go over cooldown, just a small note because we don't have the whole card here, so we're just going to kind of glaze over it. But we have 3
Mm.
words which have a big implication on this. It's a when played from anywhere, Jack Frost, and the only words we can see on the text is you may exhaust, which means there's a good chance that as a cost you'll exhaust your own cards to get some benefit in addition to stuff. It could also just say you may exhaust a target opponent's thing, but the fact that the parentheses for the reminder text is there means there can't be a lot more extra words on that first line. So I don't think it's going to say target opponent's card in reserve because that
Sure,
might be too many words
but you're thinking this says you may exhaust like target card in a reserve or something, so it could
to
be.
do something. So you could use your own as a resource to get that bonus effect.
Yeah, so you could use Jack Frost if that's what it is to either
Yeah.
screw with your opponent's stuff or set up your own if you have an ability to work off of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
In a much
Interesting.
more direct way, like you're saying, to get stuff in your own reserve that are exhausted for your own effects, is a new keyword called Cooldown on a card called Sleight of Hand. It's a one cost with cooldown, which just reads, if I go to reserve after my effect resolves, exhaust me. So it basically just goes directly into reserve. It's already exhausted. So you can't play it twice in one turn, which is relevant. There's a lot of potent spells in the game that are really good because you can double play them. But this one cannot, unless there's effects that allow you to unexhaust things during the turn. And its effect is exchange target character in your reserve with a card from your hand. And then note here that we don't know the full rules, so take this with a grain of salt because maybe they'll say you can't take exhausted cards. But with the information we have here, you could exhaust a character in your reserve, then play this and take the exhausted character out and replace it with an, I'm assuming, unexhausted, because it doesn't say the character you put from your hand has to be in the same orientation.
Yeah,
so there might
I
be
assume,
a way to refresh it.
I assume you can go ahead and return anything because the only text we have for these is exhausted cards can't be played and have no support abilities. It doesn't say that they don't exist or something, right? So
yeah,
this card is a really exciting card to me. This just in general, especially in Lyra, the bouncing things back and forth from your reserve is a fun and powerful mechanic when it's all set up correctly. But um, as someone who is a fan, also of Fen and Crowbar, I love having the ability to get your unique characters when you resupply them with either Fen and Crowbar or something else, return them back to hand, or when you just play your unique characters and you go, yeah, that was fun. I think I'm gonna do it again this turn. It lines up really perfectly. You like can play an on curve unique character like on like 4, and then next turn you have one more resource and you go, cool, spend the 1, return the unique character to my hand, and then play the unique character again. And then the next turn you get to do that again one more time. The amount of play for your best cards, especially your unique characters with sleight of hand, feels to me like it's going to be insane. And I am really thankful that they did not print this card until they also added exhausting cards in reserve, because you are going to want to immediately exhaust or sabotage your opponent's sleight of hand once it's in there. This after they've played their unique character for the second time, you go, nope, that can't happen again.
Yeah, I'm hoping the faction shifted version of this is Ysmir, because I have a lot of really great jellyfish that I would like to pick back up so I can sacrifice and put back, and then sacrifice and put back, because they'll never have fleeting when I play them from hand.
Ooh. Or you're gonna have a lot of fun playing against the Sakara Brew opponents with the unique Sakara Brews.
Oh yeah.
Like, actually, you're never advancing. You're always going back. Gross. Really, yeah. Exciting, powerful stuff. Sometimes in card games, the second set is a little weak and the first set is a little strong because they're trying to like not overwhelm the game. But I don't know. That card alone, I'm like, this is kind of crazy. So we'll have to see.
Right.
What do we got next to talk about?
Now we can either talk about gears.
I want to talk about gear.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about gear. I'll go ahead and lead this one off and let Jordan kind of weigh his opinions in on things. But gear is really exciting to me because this is the second kind of permanent that we've seen. It is no longer a landmark permanent. This is an expedition permanent. So gear is instead of going to your landmark zone, when you play one of these permanent cards, it actually does go to your expedition as if it was a character. So we've kind of learned now that the whole purpose of the labeling things a landmark permanent was that permanent, of course, just means that it doesn't gain fleeting, and when played from reserve, and it stays in play until otherwise noted. But then the prior term is just going to say which zone it goes to. So we certainly could have some more, I don't know, some other types of permanents could be created at some point. But right now, these expedition permanents, gears, will go to an expedition and then they'll do something in that expedition until that expedition moves forward. Is the way that the expedition permanents work. So these are kind of interesting because you can just throw them out there and kind of set up an expedition for a big push later or something, or some other lining up a particular effect in that expedition. Arcolano Milk is our first example. This is a 1/1 that has, when a character joins my expedition, it gains 1 boost and fleeting. Very curious, because obviously giving fleeting to your stuff isn't always great. However, if I remember right, I think Yeah, this works really nicely with the Icebound Peak. I want to throw that out there. I'll throw a little image down there which says whenever character you control gains fleeting, it gates a trial counter. So you can really combo this off. But this affects just every character that you're going to play in that expedition until it advances. Not just like that turn, right? But until it advances. So you could jam those characters in there. And if your opponent beats you, then all right, try it again next turn until you get there. What do you think of Milk, Jordan? Do you like Milk?
I think Milk is great, and it's in Bravos, which makes it better because there's ways to peel fleeting off of stuff. Or keep in mind, this basically is just a Bravos Bastion for one expedition, because if you're already playing it from reserve, it already has fleeting, so gaining fleeting doesn't do anything for you. Thirdly, this reads, if you play Tiny Jin from hand, you get his mana right away.
Oh, gross. And then you don't care about the fleeting because you're going to send him to your mana zone instead. Wow, wait, you're right. This goes into my Atsadian Surge deck. I'm so pumped. Let's go. The deck's going to get cooler. Yeah, you're right. Okay. There are ways to use the fleeting to your advantage, or there are ways to not care about it being on the card either. I like Milk so much more now after this little conversation. That's great.
Plus, I like Milk because it's named after a celebrity cat.
There's for people who don't know, I have a cat named Milk, and she was in a board game as well. While it was on Kickstarter, and then it got a picked up by a publisher and printed, and they removed Milk from the game. So I'm very sad, but
tragedy.
Promenade is the name because people are going to ask otherwise. Going to talk about one more. Jump over to Lyra. Let's talk about Winter Outfits. Winter Outfits is a 1/1 expedition permanent gear. Characters in my expedition have their stats equal to their highest statistic. So this I thought was a really creative card that allows your Lyra deck full of all its zeros to play as if it's like an Ortis deck where zeros aren't a real thing and we don't believe in them. I think that is like, yeah, that's really, really neat. Hopefully this is going to shore up some of the weaknesses that some of the Lyra decks that weren't relying on having Robin Hood to get through and win other games. Now that Robin Hood is kind of bad, hopefully it'll help them compete. Getting Nevenka to put out anchored things that then get to have all their stats adjusted so that when they get anchored for a turn and move into a stat line where they have a 0 now, like that would happen sometimes, right? But now you can kind of fix that a little bit. So what do you think about Winter Outfits?
I think Winter Outfits is going to be bonkers good because it costs 1 in both zones, and when it's played from reserve, it loses fleeting. So unless someone sabotages it, you can utilize this every single turn as long as you don't mind paying the tax. And in a lot of cases, there's a lot of characters that have really high 1 stat and not so great other stats, and now this makes it an Omni really high 1 stat. Like, it's going to be great.
This is an interesting note, and I might have sort of misspoken about this earlier, but it's the landmark permanents that don't have fleeting, but the permanent gear, expedition permanents, do get fleeting normally when they're played from reserve. And that, but that having that, the rare version says I lose fleeting when played from reserve. That allows you to put this into your Fed and Crowbar decks. Also, flip it out with a resupply sometime, and like now for the rest of the game, just go to town with everything being gigantic, whatever else you're playing. Yeah, that's cool. I think it's really, really strong. It does take up one of your reserve slots though to keep it there. I mean, that's an interesting thing to note. It's not just it's not just like a free roll. Because at some point, if you are playing like Fen and Crowbar, I mean, that's going to fill up every single turn basically with reserve stuff.
Yeah. Very real cost. And also, I love the art. I love how they have it looking like it's a magazine ad for the clothes.
Yeah, it's really funny. The little no bad weather, just bad clothes sticker on there and everything. Very funny. But yeah, that's gear. I'm sure we're going to see some more. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm also excited about the implication of the new card type, because with a new card type, of course, there's going to be new characters and effects that'll interact with those that also might be really cool and do different stuff. Or maybe there's, I'm guessing there's inevitably going to be like a cheap character with low stats that is like, I get a boost for every gear in an expedition or something like that. Or sacrifice an expedition or a piece of gear maybe, and I get some bonus. That'll cause
Sure.
some fun setups or combo potential that I could see in the future being really cool.
Oh yeah, definitely. I 100% think we'll be seeing more things that rely on gear and everything. Honestly, the one thing that just disappoints me a little bit about Trial by Frost is that we don't have new characters, because like I would love a character that was like sorry, characters. I would say the wrong thing. Excuse me, heroes for this. Too many card games, guys. Sorry. We don't have new heroes in this set. Meaning that we're not going to have a hero that's like works with gear specifically or something, which would be really cool to see.
Ooh, you never know. In the next set, though, I could definitely see a character that has
Oh,
the text. Their power is just gear doesn't count towards reserve limit or something like that.
oh,
Because then you just
cool
collect a
idea.
bunch of gear, and that could be a roundabout way of getting a larger reserve for cards like Asani, who get
Anansi,
boosted based
yeah.
on reserve cards.
Oh,
So you'd get
big
double dipping on the
Anansis.
gear. Yeah.
Ooh, that would be fun. Yeah, that'd be cool. Cool. Love that idea. Yeah, hopefully future sets, we'll see some more of that stuff. Okay. Well, I think those are the core new mechanics that we've seen. And I think, Jordan, we just had a couple of last cards that we wanted to talk about a little bit before we go into our mailbag question for the day as well.
Yeah. So I just wanted to talk about this card just because I love the art on this card and I love its effect, and it's just a cool card and I like it and I'm probably going to use it a lot, which is Amarok. It's a new character, animal. It 5 cost, 4/3/3. And at first glance you're thinking 4/3/3 for 5? That doesn't seem very good. However, if there are no characters currently in the expedition when you play it, cost 2 less. So that becomes a turn 1 drop that is a 4/4/3. It also has the text, when another character joins my expedition, sacrifice it. And the
I
picture is Amarok just eating somebody. So he's just eating everything in
he
the
eats
expedition.
anything that enters the expedition with him. I am very excited for this card for one reason, and I already mentioned it in this episode. Jordan, do you know what it is? Huh?
Oh no,
Yeah?
I'm blanking.
No? Okay. I'll tell you. This is a turn 1 card that draws you a card in Atsadian Surge.
Oh my god, it is! Holy crap! Yo, I didn't even think about that. That's sick.
Turn 1, you drop your 4/3/3 and get to immediately draw a card from Atsadi. Very, very sick. Very cool option. Currently, the way I build that deck is focused on trying to pull turn 1 ramp off. But with effects like this, Atsadi can definitely take a different angle sometimes, which I think I'll at least try and find room for a set of this in there, because it seems like a really, really sick
And this
way to
is just the common version. I'm excited to see what the
Yeah.
rare or uniques are going to be of this guy. It's going to be
Oh,
wild.
unique Amaroks for Atsadi. That'll be the new tech. That'll be really cool. Ooh, baby. Okay, I love that. Yep, very pumped. Too many exciting things. You're right. Good call talking about Amarok. I'm just going to mention, I don't think it's very good, question mark, but I love that Santa Claus is in the set.
Yeah.
I think that's funny. Now, is he good? He's a 5/5/0/5/5 with, when played from hand, starting with you, each player may immediately play a card with hand cost 3 or less for free. I will say, in multiplayer, I think it sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think that'd be wild. And I think depending on how you build your deck or the state of the game, he could be super sick too. Because it doesn't say they have to have a card in order to play. So if they have no cards in hand, you could just be playing a card for free in addition to a 0/4/4 body.
Right. Yeah,
And
and I guess that's true. Like against my Moona ramp deck, this would be a really powerful card.
it also doesn't say anything about where you're playing it from. So you could potentially play a card from reserve that costs more, but its hand cost is 3
Oh,
that you wouldn't have been able to play without playing Santa
I
Claus.
didn't even think about that at any point. It doesn't say from hand. It just says each player may immediately play a card with hand cost 3 or less for free. So if it's like if it's, oh my God, you have in your, wait a second. If you have in your deck some of those like unique characters or whatever that are like, have a pumped up when played from reserve cost because they have a reserve ability that's like crazy, you can just like load up your uniques with those and then Santa Claus them out for like Mondo cheap for like crazy swings on turns. He's a 0 stat, so you can play him in a rock and do some work there. Although he's not ideal for a rock because he's been played from hand. You really want things to do something when they're flipped out in a rock, but he would potentially help you get counters faster. Oh, whoa. Or in, again, I feel like this is Fen and Crowbar talking about a lot here, but since it's from anywhere, you can just resupply your things and then play Santa Claus but it's from hand, so he's not going to resupply. This is the Lyra problem, right? It's like it's always kind of tricky to find the right mix of things because it's like you want 0 stats, but then you need stats to win, and then you want to play things that trigger a rock, but you also need to make sure that they are like big things to play when you flip on a rock. And like Fen's like, well, your good cards play from hand, but then you need to have cards that you can play from reserve that do stuff. And but you
And
definitely
alternatively,
changed my
his
mind on it.
faction shift is Muna.
Yes. Okay. Muna is great. I can't immediately think of any really good Muna.
I can't either, but there has to be some in there, right?
I'm sure you have flipped my opinion on Santa Claus. I'm glad I brought him up too, because I have realized there's actually probably some pretty crazy stuff you can do with that now if you are set up correctly. So never mind. I take it all back. Santa Claus is dope. And also it's Santa Claus and he's got like sunglasses and like a tattoo or something. So he's
looking like a Chad.
Yeah.
And actually it looks, I can't tell if that's just like clear plastic like sleeves, because he actually has the normal like coat sleeves, or if maybe he's just so teaming with Tumult because that like rainbow effect is similar to what they've shown like Tumult flickers looking like. So maybe he's just so powerful that like Tumult is just like coalescing around his forearms.
I was looking at a small picture here and thought it was like a tattooed arm, but you're right. It's actually just like energy around him. And also, I just want to point out that his sleigh has a reindeer head on it with sunglasses. It's like this Santa hunted the reindeer and then like mounted one on the front of his sleigh and put sunglasses on it. Like this is a wild Santa Claus. What is going on here? Oh my God. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. I've turned around on that though. All right. Very cool. Jordan, there is one last card. We haven't seen it, but you wanted to talk about it. We've only seen the card name. Are you ready? Go for it.
Yes. So to close out our card spoiling section here, I'm excited about Snoozer Shroom just because I love the art on both of the Sneezer Shrooms, and Sneezer Shroom is just a great little card. And having one that's going to be a snoozy boy is going to be an excellent card as well.
Yeah, we've seen looks like a rare Snoozer Shroom in Ortis, and that might be a rare, like a faction shifted, or it might be in Ortis naturally. I assume you're gonna play him, and he'll go become asleep instead of anchored or something, like a kind of like a Kodama situation.
Or maybe he puts other people to sleep because he like has like sleep spores or something.
Yeah, but he's the snoozer. He's the
True.
snoozer shroom.
He's the one snoozing. You're right. I'm with you on that one.
Maybe we'll see. But Jordan's very excited for Snoozer Shroom, and honestly, who wouldn't be? But yeah, we've got a lot more spoilers coming. They're actually main deck will have a spoiler as well, and we'll be posting that in the coming weeks in January. So stay tuned. It is, I'll tell you this much. It is Muna. I got to pick, so I picked Muna. So look forward to that. We will talk about that. I think Jordan and I will do a quick video where we'll just give our opinions on it. Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Let's close things out. We do have a mailbag question that came in. So
I'm excited.
Thank you for sending this in. Stefan is the name of the sender. As a reminder, if you guys have a question you'd like us to talk about on a future episode of Fleeting Thoughts, yes, we are still doing the podcast. Your mailbag questions are perfectly valid now that computer's fixed and we're raring to go. Feel free to leave it either down in the comments of this video if you're on YouTube. Below, you can just write #mailbag and then right away whatever question you want. Or you can email it to us, especially if you're listening to us on a podcast platform. Email maindeckgames@gmail.com, maindeckgames@gmail.com, and just put in the title Fleeting Thoughts Mailbag so that I know that that's what you're trying to get us to do. Stefan wrote to us by email and said, "Hey guys, I got into Altered about 2 months ago. Been thoroughly enjoying it and listening to your talk about it every 2 weeks. I especially love the passion you show for the game and the synergy you both show during the show." Jordan, did you know we were synergistic?
We're synergistic.
Would you have described us that way?
I could see that happening, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we do we bounce off each other's energy a little bit. We have a little bit of fun. I can see that. Thank you, Stefan. Really appreciate that. I'm glad you've enjoyed listening to us. And I hope that you weren't too depressed by the break that we took. But now it's time to answer your question. And the questions are 2 of them, actually. Main question: I feel almost all mechanics are understandable, bar 2. Why are we fighting another hero, or why would they stop us if usually our goals are mutually exclusive? I think they mean our goals are not mutually exclusive. So we do have the same ends that we're working towards. They said that's not the main question, but that's the first one. So Jordan, why is it in Altered we are competing with each other instead of working cooperatively to explore the land?
The way I kind of see it is we're not like hard stopping them because we're both having the same goal. What it kind of is, it's more like a friendly competition. Kind of like if you and your buddy were both trying to run a race, if you will, or like explore the top of a mountain first. You want to be the one who brings home the goal to the rest of the factions to be like, yeah, Axiom is the one who, we explored the left sector of the island like way faster than Bravos did. We're the better explorers. So we're not trying to like completely shut them down. We just want to get a little edge so we can take the credit for our faction versus the other faction.
In a way, from that angle, if that's the angle, it is kind of just like the Olympics, right? It's like all the nations coming together. It's very much about everyone being in one place and competing with each other. And it's like the joy of competition. We don't just like let each other win, but we're not like, gonna be mad at each other because someone won either. It's part of the competition. I do think that's probably somewhat true. I do think there is some like actual competition that happens here, just from the perspective of, you think about, you are going on this expedition, your hero's going on this expedition on behalf of this faction, and each faction does have their own set of goals, their own way they see the world, and the way that they think is the best way to, for example, use the resources that are found in this area. It's not like they're gonna kill anybody over the resources in Altered, because we are working, like you said, it's towards sort of a common goal. But if Axiom gets to this rich mine, their first thing they're going to do is be like, okay, what can we build with this new power source? Like, this is huge. Whereas if Lyra got to it first, they might just turn it into paint or something, and they'd be like, come on guys, like, we don't need more paint. We need to fuel our new rocket ships or something. So there is, I think, there is some degree of legitimate competition that needs to happen here, where if they get to it first, they kind of have the claim over it and can work with it a little bit more. But I just don't think it's like a deadly force level of competition, right?
Yeah, I'm on that same angle. Plus, it
Um,
brings out the best in all factions. Like
yeah,
when you have someone to compete against, you always have to stay at the top of your game.
competition breeds innovation. Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's really important too, because the tumult is a scary place. You can't be lax there. You can't just be like, oh, and just take a lazy walk down through the. I keep reading the name of the Trial by Frost place. The Kais or something. I've written it several times in like our pre-order page and everything, and I can never remember the name of the Kais Adara. I was close, which I've certainly mispronounced. And feel free to let me know in the comments how I'm supposed to pronounce that. But yeah, you can't take a leisurely stroll through there. You got to have your winter clothes. You got to be running to keep your heat up. All right, one more question. In almost all settings, sleeping a character means that they become essentially a lump of meat, which is represented by having their stats go to 0. But he says it breaks my immersion when they still keep they say quote unquote auras active. They mean like their abilities. The abilities on the card are still active even though they're asleep. What do you feel about sleep still giving access to the character's abilities? I would change the mechanic that Stefan continues to being able to trigger the ability, but then shutting it down alongside their stats, which essentially turns off their auras. So, Jordan, what do you think about your sleepy characters still doing things? Does that make any sense to you?
It kind of does to me for the most part. From a thematic point of view, mainly just because uh, this tumult is like a magical influence, and it generally magically changes the characters. They are sometimes literally made completely of it. They're eidolons, so they're made of a magical essence to start with, made physical. And in most cases, just like when you go to sleep, your organs don't all shut down. Your brain doesn't turn off. You just are dormant. So in this case, when you have a character with a magical ability that does something that's just emanating and pulsating out of their body, I assume that they're asleep, but the magic in their body doesn't somehow turn off. It just like an organ, it's still pulsing out of their body. They're just not actively, guiding it to win their expedition, or, they're not running up a mountain. They're just sleeping, and things nearby are still being affected by the pulsating magic just emanating out of their body. That's how I like to think about it anyway.
Yeah, I think that is a good way to look at it, especially like you said with like the various eidolons and everything. But everyone is engaging with the magic of the tumult here. I do think also there are certain characters whose mere presence, whether they were asleep or not, should still effectively work for whatever their abilities are. Here, a great example I have is Jeanne d'Arc. If you have a Jeanne d'Arc out, Jeanne d'Arc's ability is when she leaves, she inspires the people and more soldiers join the expedition, right? And it's not like if Jeanne d'Arc, I mean, because of course Jeanne d'Arc was famously martyred for her cause and everything. It's not like if Jeanne d'Arc died while she was sleeping, was like killed while she was sleeping, everyone would be like, nah, never mind. I don't really care. Like, there are some abilities where it doesn't make sense to shut them off while they're sleeping because they're inspiring people in certain ways, or they're not designed so straightforward. Like, this is a character who picks up rocks and they can't do that while they're asleep. That's not obviously an ability, but like just for example, that's something you can't do when you're asleep. I'm fairly certain I can't, at least. But there are some abilities that should be active when they're asleep. And so if a sleep blanket shut off abilities, it wouldn't totally work with every ability there. Um, so there is always, when you're designing a game, there's an inflection point in there somewhere where you have to decide between abstracting things, basically making them more just mechanically gamified or whatever, um or really like leaning into the flavor of something and making sure the flavor comes out fully. And like, if the way that Stefan describes it would be very flavorful for a lot of abilities, um,
Yep.
but not everything, right? And you just got to kind of pick something in the middle that works. I've played plenty of card games where they don't pick anything in the middle, and those are chunky, hard games to play, let me tell you.
Yeah, and we don't have anything like this in the game, unless I'm severely mistaken. But I could see in the future if they ever added characters that had exhaust abilities on them, so they would exhaust themselves to do some sort of ability. I could see a case for Asleep turning those off, because in my mind, thematically, if it's an exhaust ability, they're specifically doing something active, which, thematically would require you to be awake to do. But if it's a passive ability, in my mind, that's just the residual presence or like aura of their magic just imbued in their very body that's just pulsating out that does it. Not necessarily anything that they're doing specifically that like requires them to be awake.
Yeah. Like, exhausting something is like, that would be like exhaust this to pick up a rock. And it would make sense for that to be, shut off. Totally agree with that. But I think really interesting questions. Just, Stefan obviously knew, Jordan, that you and I are the lore masters of Altered. Nobody knows lore better than the boys on the Fleeting Thoughts podcast. That's very not true. There are so many channels that are way more into the lore and totally understand things better, but maybe more hitting at the marriage between mechanics and lore, which is where we're I think okay at doing that. So thank you, Stefan, so much for the kind words. Thank you for the questions. Very interesting ones to talk about. And yeah, if you guys have any other mailbag questions, just feel free. Like I said, hashtag mailbag down in the comments, or email maindeckgames@gmail.com with Fleeting Thoughts mailbag in the subject and whatever you want us to talk about in the next episode. Well, what do you think, Jordan? About ready to put on your winter coat? It's very cold where we live, actually.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a chilly weekend this weekend as well. So,
but that's just going to help us dig into the theme of Trial by Frost.
We're going to be Trial by Frosting in our own front yards, ready for the new set.
Yeah. I was doing that today.
Right.
It was,
Really cool. I think that about covers it for the current new mechanics that we've seen. Maybe we'll see some more in the coming weeks that we can talk about. But as of now, that was our Fleeting Thoughts. Thank you guys so much for joining and listening in. We apologize greatly for our long absence, but everything is now remedied, and we will hopefully see you in about 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye, everyone.